adding plants, you can do it through level 1 or go to the site and add to your plane. So I'm just going to add my trees around here. So I like these to be out of the way for a little bit so I don't see it. So a hide category, that sounds pretty good to me. So here's my fireplace and my building, looking from the top, looking in site plan. So what I like to do is add some trees. So I'm going to go to architecture, and I'm going to go to component. Rather than modeling in place, I'm going to place a component. And that component, I need to load some family types. So I'm going to go here to my U.S. Imperial library. As I go to my library, I look for a folder called planting. And there are some types of plants that are already in there. And you like to plant different types of trees and bushes, you can go to internet and download more. So I'm just going to put some deciduous trees on one side, fall trees on the other side, and so on. So I'm going to start with some deciduous trees. And when I click open, it allows me to overwrite the existing versions, and that's fine for me. So here you can actually see where I'm about to place it. So I like to place them right there. And so let's take a look at it. So I like to go to the trees, so deciduous tree, so I can choose the various types. So I want to go very, very large types. So honey locust is fine. So that's where I'm going to go with a honey locust, and in plan it looks like this. So what I like to do is just essentially create a row of them. And I like to sort of do them in relationships. So I'm going to copy multiple from that junction to here, to here, to here. So they're equally spaced, if you like to. All right. So that's where it is. Looking at 3D, you can actually see how I framed the back of the building. Now I'm just going to go off to the side and put some deciduous trees. So I'm going to place a component, and I'm going to look and see what I already have in terms of types of trees. So I'm going to go with the common apple, which is much shorter, and I'm going to go back to my site plan, and I'm going to place my common apple. So component, place a component, common apple tree, there it is. So it's a much, much smaller. I would like to align it, and again, I like to sort of copy it in relationship, copy, multiple, from that junction to this junction to that junction. So then there is a sense of order to what I'm actually doing. All right, so now I like to look at this in perspective. So rather than just looking at it this way, I would like to place my camera on my sidewalk and actually look at my building and with all the trees in the background. So here's the effect that you're actually getting. So it's kind of nice to get that effect. You may want to get some road over here, and you can change the effect from hidden lines to shaded, and from shaded to realistic, and it looks a little bit more realistic like this. As soon as you put realistic, you get to see some of these trees slightly different, and I may want to change some of those trees, but before I change them, I want to go back and make some changes. So this looks pretty good. Now if I go over here, it allows me to take this view and render it. So I went to where you see the teapot, and I clicked on render, and I'm going to go on medium for now, but when you go home you can actually do it much more detailed. So I like that, and I could actually render that, and it adds sky and it adds lighting. We haven't done any lighting yet, but once you do lighting, it'll actually give you much more detailed effect, much nicer look of your project. So it will take a little bit of the time, and it'll do it relatively nicely. Notice how it's white over here because it's not quite clear what to do. So a lot of times what I do is I put some textured bushes back here, or I put some lower trees so it actually will work a little bit nicer than that. You could also change the shadow effect as you like. You can change the angle, adjust the exposure. You can actually go darker shadows. So you could go this way, and highlights, you can change it. You could go brighter or less. Exposure, you want to go a little bit darker. White point, you want to go warmer. It's up to you how you would like to do. So here you can see how I'm changing so it looks a little bit more gloomy, less gloomy. You can actually do the sun setting in so many different ways, like adjusting the degrees and the sunlight going from the top left versus the right left. And so all of that can change dramatically because it changes the shadow direction. So as you render it, it will change and modify the effect that you have based on the shadows. Notice now that it's shifting the shadow direction to this side versus the opposite side. So certainly you can change.